Jake Milne, William Insulation Company.
Bailey, you're next. Go ahead, sir.
Bailey, Midkiff, W.I.C.
Thank you very much for joining the program here today. Boy, I tell you, it is certainly some different times right now. A lot of people are working from their homes, transitioning. But again, when it comes to the oil and gas industry, so much energy is needed to keep the ventilators going, to keep the hospitals going, to keep the trucks moving from point A to point B. Not only that, we need the plastics in order to put on the testing kits and the vaccines, all kinds of different things that the petroleum industry is needed for. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But I do like to start off the conversation anytime nowadays to find out what level of business people are engaged in. Are they open? Are they working normal hours? That sort of thing. So Jake Milne, Bailey Midkiff, thank you for joining us today. First of all, talk to me about what's going on in your guys' world in terms of your office and your business activity.
Well, at first it didn't seem like there was going to be much change, with most of our projects being in the energy sector right now. We weren't expecting too much of a change. Over the last week, though, we've put out our coronavirus notice to our associates, clients, as well as our guidelines to employees. We've locked the office front door. No one gets in without an appointment or and we had a notice up there. If you're feeling symptomatic, then you aren't coming in here. And then, looking at what our clients and vendors are saying that they're going to do, making sure that we're relaying that to our field people and following all the procedures that are being put in place. With that being said, we are down to 3 people in the office right now. Everyone else is working from home. The CEO's coming in for a couple hours a day. That's about it. Earlier this week, last week they had one project down in Evanston, Wyoming. They put in some procedures and, we thought, okay, this project's going to keep going. Well, then they, decided on Monday or Tuesday this week that they were going to shut down the project and reevaluate after April 1st. Got another client that's in between Rollins and Casper that they had a 2-week turnaround that is now reduced to 3 days. They found out earlier this week that they had 2 operators that were diagnosed with the coronavirus. So they're looking into that and making sure that our employees didn't come into contact with them. We've since suspended work there until further notice. That everyone's holding tight onto their wallets. We've been worried about other projects being canceled, but as of right now, as far as our oil field type work, that stuff's still in motion. Emergency stuff is still being attended to. All the other turnarounds we have planned are going forward as normal, but our bigger projects is where we're seeing everyone kind of sitting back, holding tight to their cash and waiting to see how this all turns out before they issue any POs. We've got several verbal awards out there that, we're just waiting to see what happens before we actually allocate the money because they don't know what they're going to do with it. Trying to continue business as usual. Bailey is with his travels to all these different places. He's not allowed at the office for right now till things settle down and just trying to continue to work with our clients and meet the needs of all of our associates that we deal with. But it's significantly impacted the way that we are doing business. That's for sure.
Bailey, I know that you're kind of like Jake said, you get out there, you're the traveling guy. You got to, I don't know if you're a caged bird right now or if you're still running a few meetings here and there or what, but talk to me about how your life has been impacted.
I am actually on the road right now. And with everything going on, you got to be, you got to be very cautious. At least, I'm not stir crazy. I'm out and about. But, it really just boils down to respecting your clients the best you can. I mean, I try to ensure I have a meeting. Some people you can't get a hold of. And I think a lot of that probably is those individuals are at home or, in a secured environment to where they're so busy on the phone, it's kind of hard to address that. I mean, the phone calls before probably tripled, right? So the communication we have now is way different. Even if I can do like a virtual visit or anything, we're open to any ideas with all our clients. But if I can get a meeting, I absolutely go. Now, I'm in healthy condition right now, so obviously that's not an issue. But, the humbling factor of, all the health concerns, I'm really watching it. And it's crazy to see. So, obviously we've got connecting states that have a lot of cases, and they're taking extreme measures to force individuals, to stay home. Wyoming hasn't seen that yet. And I will tell you this, the traffic's pretty normal. I was at Walmart this morning to get some groceries before I headed out, and it was still busy. They were stocking the shelves. Yesterday alone, I went down a renowned road in the Powder River Basin, Ross Road, and there was more traffic on that gravel road with, the oil and gas operations happening there than there was on I-25 to get to it.
If I could speak to that point, I seen on Facebook, some company came out with a grading system on how well each state is doing on their social distancing, and they said Wyoming's got an F, and I seen everyone complaining about it, and like, come on, people, get it together. But if you actually read the article, it said, well, first of all, everyone lives very rurally in Wyoming for the most part. For example, me, if I wanted to go get a loaf of bread from the store, it'd take me a half hour, 15-minute drive there, 15-minute drive back. And that's if I don't run into slow ups at the store. So, and they said in the report that this is a skewed report. And on top of that, you got to realize, I was thinking about the day they sent that out on Tuesday, Monday before, I'd done 300 miles worth of driving. And it's based off cell phones and how much travel there is. And greater majority of our state is based on the energy sector, and which is an essential service. So, a lot of us are still out there working, and it's been up to the individual companies to decide, what roles are essential to be out there in the field.
Have you guys had any sort of government edict yet as far as stay home or any warnings or anything like that?
They've requested it.
Yeah, I think the major one is just verbally, if you can stay home, please do, which I totally agree. I mean, if you have the capabilities to do everything you can remotely at your house, secure, away from individuals with the, social separation at hand, I think you should. But I obviously, just like Jake said, heck, just some of the stuff, if you've got some people are worse than the 30 minutes, we're the least populated state with a lot of ground to cover.
I find it pretty interesting. I'm looking for a specific story online here that talks about your neighboring state, Colorado. And I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this because I know you do business down there, and I know you have a lot of colleagues down there as well. And the governor came out last year and declared a war on oil and gas. He's been very public about it to the tune to where he's flat out said, we're going to shut it down. Well, now when this coronavirus comes in, Colorado is a hotbed right now as far as it's one of the top states for issues. And the list of essential businesses has oil and gas in there. And to me, I understand there's a time and place for everything. But at the same time, I am seeing headlines that is demonizing oil and gas because of the inactivity of people saying that, look, see, this is an example of what climate change and this and that. And so it's out there is what I'm getting at. I just don't understand how the media hasn't pointed that out, that the governor who's trying to end an industry now says it's essential for people's lives. Go on. Sorry.
Well, look at it this way. Governor Polis 2 days ago called for 50% reduction in non-essential business, in-person work. And, they listed the critical infrastructures, and you just nailed it. One of them was oil and gas operations. Now, as of yesterday, they did the stay-at-home initiation where, you have to stay at home unless you are, fit the critical infrastructure. I think it was like fuel supply, transmission, oil and gas operations, public water. There was a bunch, hotels, I think was another one. Obviously, there were some big ones there. So it's so funny you say that. And I think it boils down to one thing, and this is my personal opinion, then I'll let Jake spill his. I think that we're taking the high road. We could immediately take this information and be like, oh, well, now we're not the bad guys anymore, no discussion. But I don't think we'd be gaining any ground there either. I think it's terrible this happened, and I'm worried about the people with their health and their well-being. But it's really shown a highlight on, wow, okay, maybe they shouldn't have attacked us. But at the same point, I don't think it's going to go away, because you can't spend all these years attacking an industry and then when this is done, take it all back.
Jake?
Sorry about that. I had to answer the phone. I'm the only one at the office right now.
By all means, I can comment if you need to get to that. That's no problem. That's
No,
hey.
it's all right.
By the way, welcome to Living the Crude Life, folks. We got multiple interviews going on, multiple people. Jake's there cutting deals. Boy, I tell you, it isn't bad.
You know, talking about Colorado, my mother lives over in Johnstown. It's to the southeast of Loveland. And she called me concerned yesterday about this stay-at-home order. And, but I think it's probably a smart move what they're doing down there, just because it is a hot spot. And I was talking with our senior project manager earlier today about it, and when they tried doing this a day or two ago, there's hundreds of people lined up at the pot stores and the alcohol stores and all these essential stores. And so then they shut that down, and because now you got hundreds of people congregated trying to get their fix while they're going to be stuck at home. And so I think it's a good thing that they've done it. But on respect to the environmental side of it, I've seen those also where they're saying, oh, look, now that everything's shut down, look at how this area is flourishing. I disagree. What it is that it's flourishing because the people aren't there. It's not the oil and gas. It's not the energy side of things. It's people. That's just like when I go hunting in the fall, I hunt the wilderness. Last thing I want to see when I go up there is where someone forgot to take their trash out or get rid of a fire ring up there. That's what that is about. That's why I hunt there, so that I'm not around a bunch of different people. And that's just people not being there. If people aren't there, the animals are going to come back. And not politicizing it is the biggest thing. Not politicizing it, and it's shameful that some people are taking advantage of this and using it to an advantage to push their agenda forward in the middle of a tragedy.
I was trying to look for the news story that listed the different essential businesses and critical infrastructure, and I couldn't find any news stories, so I had to go to the governor's original letter where it lists it there, oil and gas production field operations. And just even that kind of stinks, because they're listing cannabis, they're listing liquor stores, they're listing all these different things and all the other media outlets out there that I'm looking at, and they're not listing any of this other stuff. They're even listing hotels and things like that, and it's just the framework of it is just remarkable to me, and it just never ends. And so I just wanted to take an opportunity to just say, listen, the oil and gas industry is really doing a lot to help heal and fight the corona epidemic. From the diesel in the trucks delivering things, from the power that's generating the hospitals, to the plastics that's protecting the different testing kits and the vaccines that are coming. Have you guys thought about that as far as how much the energy industry, specifically the oil and gas, is healing and fighting this corona epidemic?
I've thought about it quite a bit, and we've been talking over the last couple of weeks is, first of all, we've got the low oil prices and the issues with OPEC, right? And now we've got this, and it's like, we're all worried about it. However, when it all comes back, I think it's going to come back in a storm, and we're going to see the economy come back maybe better than what it was before this happened. But one thing that we've discussed as far as targeting clients and looking at certain projects and what is volatile and what do we want to chase, what do we not want to chase. Yeah, we're going to keep chasing this stuff, but if there's certain operators where it's like, well, this guy's shutting everything down, like I was told yesterday, and is shutting everything down in the state of Wyoming, waiting for this oil price to come back and the coronavirus stuff to settle down. So that's probably not one we're going to be chasing right now. We'll still stay in contact, but we know that there's not a whole lot we can do for them at this point in time. But thinking about on the plastic side of things and the chemicals, and there's a grassroots plant that's going to be going up in Wyoming, chemical plant, and it's like, well, I have a pretty good idea that one's going to move forward because there's going to be a higher demand for the chemicals that they're planning to produce. So, I've thought about it. What are your thoughts, Bailey?
Absolutely. And honestly, one thing that surprised me, and, having my history and track record of being in the industry and being, multiple generations in it, Riley Sassy is a funny one I should bring up. He posts every day an item on LinkedIn that he thanks oil and gas for essentially making happen. And I hate to admit it, there's been 2 items over the past 2 months that I didn't even think about or realize. So, that's something to keep in mind too. Everybody automatically goes to the, fuel and, a quart of oil, but there's so much more. In all this panic, I think the only 2 things that are getting sold that don't have petrochemicals in them are fruits and toilet paper.
I got to be honest.
I kind of pointed out.
I didn't even know hand sanitizer had petroleum products in it. I knew that the container it came in did, but I thought hand sanitizer was primarily alcohol and a few natural products, that sort of thing. But even hand sanitizer has petroleum products in it. I like to try to point out to people as much as I can that from the stats I've read, 92% of our everyday items have petroleum products in it, from the toothpaste that we brush our teeth with to the toothbrush we brush our teeth with. They have petroleum products in it. So when you think about the cosmetics, to the toothbrush, to the, if you think about, a hypodermic needle, everything from the actual chamber of the needle to the plastic that it comes in. All kinds of different things that people just don't realize on a day-to-day basis. And I'm not trying to be some champion for the oil and gas industry when I say this. All I'm trying to do is say, let's just, before we get crazy, realize what we're talking about before we start trying to, become a governor of a state and try to ban an industry. A couple months later, turn around and say they're so essential, we need them out there. And then he turns around and tells everybody to stay home so nobody else dies. This dude out of Colorado is using sensationalism language like I've never seen before from that type of a position. It scares me when politicians get to that extreme talk, and he's one of them. He's definitely one of them. I do want to transition over to your state a little bit with kind of what's going on in the world of oil and gas, state of Wyoming. Bailey, I know you got some background in politics with your family and everything, so I might just start with you on this. There's been a lot of talk about the state buying up mineral leases, and even to buying up some in Utah and in Colorado. I see the pros and cons on that, that sort of thing. But anytime states are buying up mineral leases in the oil and gas world, I like to get opinions on what people think. Like I said, there's pros and cons to it, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on the state buying up? It's the biggest purchase since, I think, Alaska is what they said.
It is. And, the acreage alone, and I've read it 100 times, and I wish I could read it off, but it is a large chunk of property. It's a mass buy. I think it's brilliant. It's almost as if, though, they sat down as a state and said, okay, our government as a whole is running the United States like a business, like we should have done. And they must have thought, well, how can we make the next big move as a state to run it as a business? And why not? It's absolutely amazing concept. But being a realist, I hate to admit it, it's kind of scary, because if you allow the state to do that, what does it open up for other states and, our state alone to do next? If this thing does happen, is it really something we should let any form of government be allowed to do and or get involved in? That's a tough question, right? I mean, there's a lot of opinions, and like you said, there's a lot of pros and cons. And if you really dig into it, you can point out the factual information of why it's a pro, and you can point out the factual information on why it's a con decision. But at the end of the day, I think it's absolutely brilliant, and I never saw it coming. I think of some crazy ideas.
I'm glad you brought up the vein you did, because that is my one concern, and I do think it does need to be talked about, and it's not a popular topic, which is when the government gets into business, where does it stop? Because
exactly,
my biggest competitor is the government in terms of if I'm going after a marketing dollar between the public schools and the park districts and the government's trying to get different monies in here and there for their economic developments and everything else like that. And they're wrapping buses and, putting up signs on billboards out at scoreboards and things. My biggest competitor is the government by a long shot, but nobody ever talks about that. When I look at even in the state of North Dakota, they've got several water companies now. And I know in Texas, the farmers don't like hearing that because the people in North Dakota didn't, but the state got in the water business. So it is kind of disturbing when you see states getting into different businesses and picking and choosing where they're going to go after different market share, because most people don't see it that way. They don't see it that way at all. They look at it as, the government's just helping people. Well, one guy in Georgia once told me the only power the government has is to make you homeless. And I thought about it and I went,
that's a good point.
There's a lot of truth behind that, actually. And so anyway,
there really is.
Hey, Jake, what do you think about Wyoming getting this big, share? Like I said, there's pros and cons to it. And right now, this is just an opinion. So nobody's going to hold you to it. In fact, you can even change your opinion later.
Absolutely. That's the greatest part about it, right? Well, one thing that I just looked it up, it's 1 million acres of land and 4 million acres of mineral rights.
Is it more than Colorado?
No, looking at the map now, it looks like it's all basically spanning from the Park City, Utah area, all the way down I-80, and looks like reaches over to Rollins area and starts heading south. And there's a little bit in Colorado, not near as much. I honestly think, why not? Why not let them do it? Because first of all, they're not going to, just use this land for only that. And then there's going to be other land where they're going to be able to transfer rights from here to there and open up things for sportsmen and things of that nature. But the other thing is it's opening us up to be able to drill there, create new leases. It could be great. I agree that there's some downsides to it. There's going to be some pissed off ranchers in the area, I'm sure, when it does blow up, if it does. But all in all, if it's helping our industry move forward, then I'm all about it. But that's why we got our checks and balances, and we got to make sure we got the right people in the government, that our elected officials are going to work for the community and not for the special interests, right? So that's my short opinion on it. And I haven't read the whole article. I've read clippings of it here and there, but
I will mention this, and we can save this topic for a different day, because it could turn into a whole different dialogue, and I don't want to lose focus a little bit, but I do want to give you both a homework assignment, and we'll reconvene on this particular thing. In the state of North Dakota, we've got foreign companies that have been fracking for a decade at least. In the state of Texas, they've got foreign companies not only fracking, but they're building petrochemical plants down in Corpus Christi. Same thing down in Lake Charles, Louisiana. When you've got to pay $15 for natural gas in Europe and it's free or $3 here in the U.S., a lot of foreign companies are deciding to build over here. We just went through a big energy independence campaign and America First and all these other things. But at the same time, the reality is that we are living in a global economy. So if the idea behind a state is to come in and kind of be a bridge or a holder for those minerals for the next private person, it very well could be a foreign company. And that's something I think people need to consider. And I think that we're at the point now where the global marketplace is so here now that we have to start thinking like that. And it's not a popular thought. It's not, because we like to think we're protecting America and everything. But like I said, it's been, there's companies from China fracking in North Dakota. I mean, so it's, nobody likes to talk about that, but that is the reality. So that is just something, again, we don't know what's happening yet. This is all speculation. This is all just our opinion. And we're at a point right now where everything is on the table. I mean, I got another topic for you guys. I've seen headlines about nationalizing oil. I can't even believe that's showing up in the headlines, but that is more proof that everything is on the table right now because we're in such different times. So I don't know. What are your guys' thought about? Should topics even be talked about anymore, or should we not be talking about things because we're in such unpredictable times?
I mean,
go ahead, Bailey.
It's going to be talked about if we don't. So, I'd
Amen.
rather, us get in front of it and then instead of wait for everybody else to bring it up and then be behind it.
And that's why I wanted to bring up that foreign company example, because that is part of the conversation I haven't heard anybody talk about yet. And I don't know if we're even ready to have that conversation, because I think some people might be still pretty passionate about that.
I think if foreign companies want to come here and drill, why not do it? But do not make it easier for them than it is for an American-owned company. Let's do the same thing that they do to us when our companies go over there. Require them, for example, in Mexico. We were looking at a large refinery project 2 years ago, and we were about to go all in on it, and then they told us everything from superintendent and below has to be locally hired. And it's like, well, no, superintendent and above needs to be our people, or we can't guarantee a successful project. So we ended up backing away from it. So I think things like that, make sure that if the foreign company's coming in, that they're putting local work to help to get things going and employing the local communities. Furthermore, when we go over there, we pay higher taxes. Mexico's a perfect example. They got the gringo tax. If you own something in Mexico, you pay 30% higher than anyone else that owns anything there. If you bring a piece of equipment across the border, it is getting taxed. So long as we're protecting the national interests and not making it easy for people to come exploit our great American capitalistic system, then I think it's great. Why not? But again, let's keep America first. Let's push that agenda. And if someone wants to come here and make some money, why not? But let's just make sure that the United States is getting their fair share and don't want to gouge anyone, but that's the name of the game, right? That's capitalism.
Right on. And good points there. And like I said, that's definitely, we're going to have to revisit this topic at another time, because it's, you could probably do a week-long show just based on that, because there's so many angles to it. And like you say, the tax part of it. And I think most people are cool with it. Let's just keep the money circulating, keep people working, keep everything moving along. And most people are going to be happy for the most part. So, hey, Bailey, talk to me about who your customer is, what you guys are looking for some work and et cetera, because that's one of the big reasons why I'm bringing people on the program, is to, give them an opportunity to let people know, hey, we're still open. We're still, looking for business, and we might not do it for a few weeks, but we want to get something on the books.
I think the big thing is a lot of in-fence stuff, with everything happening, and, there are people getting sick and having to minimize the amount of individuals that are working someplace, like maintenance projects, power plants, refineries, asphalt plants, chemical plants, paper mills, all kinds of industries, that may need a group of people to come in to help because they can't cover that, as well as, the projects that are getting ready to kick off, ensuring that we're there to help them put together a good concept with the right people. There's no reason why they should maximize all the projects they have with a low head count when we can come in and help support that. In every state too. I mean, if we can make it applicable. I mean, even if Colorado, with all the issues they have, we're more than willing. We'll properly, manage our health and safety, but it's just a straight shot interstate drive to go assist on, tank batteries, anything they may have.
Jake, how about you from your perspective? What are you looking for over the next few months, in terms of getting business on the books? And, is there any specific customers that, that you guys are looking to add in the next year?
Well, absolutely. We're always trying to get new MSAs and form new partnerships. As far as the specifics, I don't want to get into that, but, we are,
come on, give us your business plan here. Come on.
we're trying to be conservative, Jason.
we're looking at the monitoring the oil and gas side of things. We're doing our best to help those partnerships out, and just watching and kind of getting their feelings and as to where things are going, where they expect them to be in the next few months and year. I think that on that side of things, just as they are pulling back on the spending and the projects, we're doing the same to an extent. We're still finishing up the projects we got. We're looking at the projects that are still on the books and going at those full force. But we're looking at other options also. Just in the last couple of weeks, we've been bidding on sugar plants in North Dakota. Paper plant in Idaho, got a alkali plant here in Wyoming that we're looking at. So, we're paying real close attention to the energy market, but looking out at all these other places that we can serve and trying to make sure that we get a good backlog. 2 months ago, I would have told you this probably was going to be our best year yet. Right now, it's kind of up in the air. We don't know which way it's going to go. The project over in Powell, Wyoming, it's not a significantly large project, but it was a project we were really looking forward to. And, that one right now, yep, you guys got the job, but we're holding on to the PO until things settle down. That's an oil and gas project. So we've got to conform to what the markets are doing. And that's exactly the way that we're looking at these things. We're, like I said, still chasing the oil and gas industry, but until we start hearing from these operators that, yep, things are starting to change and we're looking at doing more projects, we've got to do what we got to do to stay in business and chase these other avenues in the meantime.
Yeah, certainly some interesting times we're living in, and I think a lot of people would mirror your comments about, going into the year, boy, projects on the books, everything, the momentum was looking great. And then, in a matter of a couple of weeks, there isn't anybody doing anything. And Russia and OPEC and Saudi Arabia, you get a double shock coming from the supply side, a double shock from the demand side. It's something like we've never seen before, and diversification is so very important. You mentioned agriculture, you mentioned, I think, some municipalities, type of work. In just kind of closing here, what are you hearing from your colleagues out there? You've mentioned what you guys are doing, but without naming any names, are you guys talking to, people, what they're doing, what their thoughts are? Are they still feeling confident at this point, or are they getting a little bit nervous?
I think everyone's nervous. And there's been a lot of talk, whether it be right here in the office, our safety professionals talking to previous employers and colleagues all around the board, and then talking to the people that we have typical day-to-day interaction with and seeing where they're going and what they're thinking and what's being passed down from the top to them. And I think everyone's nervous right now. Energy market is, I think is the biggest, the knee-jerk reaction is not happening quite yet, but some people are doing that. Like I mentioned, I heard, and I don't know for sure, but I heard that Ann Schutz is plugging all their wells this month and in reaction to the oil markets and the coronavirus. So, it's play it by ear, see what everyone's doing, and hopefully we can stay ahead of it, and so that we're not trying to play catch up when this thing comes roaring back.
Here's the facts, Jason. Me being a gentleman and scholar, there's social separation. You know what I'm doing? social exploration. I'm talking to people. I'm out and about. I mean, most of the people are down, and they're, concerned, and they're asking me what I've heard. But at the same point, I'm staying positive. There's, we're all in it together. No matter what industry we're working in, we need to partner up and make things happen. I'm a customer service kind of guy, Jason. Help me help you. I don't sell anything. I'm just here to make things happen.
Well, let's wrap up here, and I do want to apologize that you guys didn't have a better showing in the March Madness Crude Life tournament. I see you got bounced in the second round by, who was it, Crestwood, which, that's Crestwood, a number 1 seed. That's not, nothing to sneeze at, of course, but I don't know if you guys have been following the tournaments at all, but it certainly has been a nice distraction for some folks out there.
I've been following it.
Yeah, I've been watching it, and I was pretty bummed this morning when I seen that.
At least it was Crestwood. I'll give you that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Boy, they got the canine pipe inspections in the next round. The 13 seeds been pulling off upsets, and they've gotten some magic dice rolls for sure. And what we're trying to do actually for the Final Four. So if you know anybody, let me know. I might have to call Coach Bull down there at the University of Wyoming and see if he knows somebody. But for the Final Four, I'm hoping I can evolve it to like an esports actual thing, to where we get a couple athletes or oil and gas people to, represent the Final Four teams and play on a Twitch account or something like that. I'll figure it out, but I do want to evolve past the dice to a new form of competition for the Final Four. So if you guys know any esport athletes that want to step up to the plate, well, I'm looking.
All right.
Keep our ears to the ground.
You got any picks? You want to make any predictions for who do you think is going to win the whole thing?
Canine.
Oh, whoa. That would be the upset of 13 seed. That would be like Loyola Chicago winning it a couple years ago. I think that was the Villanova year. Go ahead.
Crestwood's going to take them out and take it all. I
think you're probably right. Crestwood is looking pretty tough. The 1 seeds, they have a distinct advantage, especially when they take on a 13 seed. The more of the interesting matchups, like Johnny Green as the 9 seed against Trunkwood as the 5, that's only a 4-point difference. Like you guys, you had to give up 8 points out of the gate. So you were right at a disadvantage. You know what I mean? Oh, and that's right. Oh, I rolled so bad for you guys. That's right. I think I got snake eyes a dozen times. I felt so bad. Anyway.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, I know. I could just imagine you guys watching it saying, "What, does he hate us?" I do remember that one because that was my worst dice rolling the whole tournament, and I just felt so bad because it was just awful. But anyway, I appreciate you guys participating, and at least you won the first round, and we'll keep you got the logo up on the deal, so you get to ride those coattails the rest of the tournament way. So hopefully we can get you some exposure and people can have some fun with it and play along and etc. But any final words, you guys?
Don't let quality go to the wayside. Give us a call because we'll make sure.
Absolutely. Safety, quality, productivity in that order. I'd like to add one more thing. We through all these economic hard times, we've been planning to do some expansion and broaden our horizons. We are in the process of starting a couple more companies. We're going to start Wyoming Industrial Construction and move our steel building side of things over there. We're not going to really chase any of the mechanicals or anything like that. We don't want to go into competition with our greatest general contractors that we work for. So we're not looking to do that, but talking about starting up a consulting and management firm as well. All going to be under the W.I.C name, just going to spread it out. And so within the next 6 months, I'd say that you'll see 3 new W.I.C entities pop up.